Happy Thursday, everyone. Happy Thursday. Welcome to Susie Say That. Today's topic is you are part of the problem. Let's sit in that for a moment because many of us think that, oh, well, I didn't do anything wrong. I don't see how I could be part of the problem. As I look over my life, even with my own children, I see situations where I was part of the problem because I wanted them to choose the right thing, do the right thing, because that's what I felt they should do. And I didn't ask, well, how do you feel about that? Sometimes I would ask my kids and have really intimate, good conversations, but a lot of the time I was on mom mode. I was smothering, and I was just telling them, this is what you're going to do. This is what you're going to do. You're not going to do this. You're not going to do that. This is what you're going to do. And I was doing those things, and I found out that in certain situations, I was part of the problem. I was part of the problem because I wanted them to do the things that I knew in my heart was going to lead them to a life of greatness and all these other kind of things. But I demanded they do it instead of saying, hey, what is God telling you? What is God telling you? I remember when I asked one of my children that, and he said to me, I just need to just leave. If I could, I would just leave. And I said, oh, okay, but this is what you got going on. Then I began to just bombard him over and over and over again. I was part of that problem. I didn't even allow him to sit back and think about everything as a whole, but I was part of the problem with my daughters. I've seen situations, if my daughter wouldn't have just jumped up and moved, she just moved. She said, no, I'm moving. I'm leaving here. And if she would have never did that, she would not even be in the situation that she's in, which is a great situation. She has an amazing job and all these other kind of things because I was part of the problem. You know, one of my daughters wanted to leave and I didn't encourage her to go out there and pursue. It's like, okay, don't stay too far from home. And when she was going to college and she was like about 5.5 hour drive from here, I was just a mess. It's like, oh, can you come home this weekend? You come home this weekend. I wanted to just make sure she was all right, but I was part of the problem because she could have been flying her wings and just doing different things. But I kept saying, well, you're going to come home this weekend. And I was part of the problem in certain situations. Now, hold on. In other situations, they was part of their own problem. I had nothing to do with it because they made their own choices. I was just trying to be that mama bear and just be over them and make sure that they made right decisions. About a month ago or something, and it's because my grandson, I think he's February, March, April, May. About 4 months he's had this car, the car that I refused to take. I said, I don't want that car. I said, God is telling me, no, don't. It was free and you can go get it, but you got to take it to a shop and get it fixed. I said, God's telling me no. God is telling me don't do it. I said, I'm not doing it. I said, oh, no, I'm not eating crumbs off the floor. Those days is over. I'm not doing that. And I didn't do it. But my grandson came to me. Then this car was offered to him. And then he took the car. He put his savings in the car. My daughter put money into the car. They both put a lot of money into this car because they was told this was a good car. And the reason I'm telling you all this is I was part of the problem because I said, well, you know, I wouldn't take the car myself. But I'm thinking, well, he young, he can take the car and, you know, get you back and forth to your job, et cetera, et cetera. I was out of order. I was part of the problem because he took a car that caused him headache. It's junk. It's got all kind of issues. They don't put all that money in it, but it still got other issues going on with it. I was part of the problem. And he got the car. He couldn't even put the seatbelt. The seatbelt don't even work. He didn't even have a seatbelt to put on. And it's just, he had issues out there. And I said to him, I looked at him and we were in the car together. He said, that car got so many problems. He said, I'm just going to get me another car. I said, right. I said, I want to let you know that I'm sorry. I apologize. I was part of the problem because you making the decision to get the car was based on your mom and me, but I'm taking responsibility for me because you put your savings in that car. You had saved that money. He's a great saver. And he said, I saved it because I wanted a certain car. But I just kept listening and listening. And I said, that's part of my problem. That's part of my fault. I apologize to you. I was part of the problem. And I've had to admit to that because, you know, he's a good young man. And I didn't want him thinking that you just got to do everything your grandmother said. You got to just do everything your mom said. What is God saying to you? He said, I just knew I shouldn't have took it. I said, that was your God voice, your God face. God was speaking to you. And we overrode that by telling you that, well, you know, you're young, you can get it fixed. But we didn't know he's going to put thousands and thousands of dollars in it. We didn't know that. But the point is, he said he didn't feel right about it. He said, I just didn't feel, I wanted my own car. I wanted to go pick out my own car. And I said, I am sorry. I said, because I should have asked. What did your God say? I should have asked you some questions. And I just went right and jumped on that bandwagon with your mom. I said, and I was wrong for that. I said, I should have just got out your ear. And his mom don't even know I told him to go ahead and take the car. She don't know that. But I told him, I said, well, your mom said you should take it. And I think that's not bad. You young. I said all kind of stuff to encourage him. And they do listen to me to a certain degree. I am the matriarch to them. So they listen to me. I have certain influences, but certain times they just do what they want to do. My granddaughter told me, no, you was about 20-some years old. Didn't you do what you want to do? I said, I sure did, and it didn't get me anywhere. So then I said, but I got to take my hands off of you. I got to wipe my hands and just let you do you. I said, that's what I need to do because I don't want to be part of your problem. I don't want them to become older adults and say, all my grandmother did or all my mother did was just rule with a tight fist. Even when we got grown, she was telling us what to do. She's part of the problem. Now, they made decisions and choices of their own, being adults, but I'm not part of the problem because I removed myself from all of it, from all the things that was being said and done. I said, no, because if I'm part of the problem, I need to give you all a solution. That is to remove myself. And that's what I did. I did it all the way around. It just wasn't just with my own children. It was with some other people too. I said, no, because it seems like if my name keeps coming up over and over again in y'all circle, in y'all family, then I'm part of the problem. And guess what? I'm a problem solver. I believe in solutions. I don't believe in staying in the problems. I did that most of my life. I don't do that. So let me remove myself. And then y'all come up with your own solutions. Do your own thing. Because I'm removing myself from the toxicity, the drama, and I'm talking about family as a whole, friends as well. I'm removing myself that because when you get to a point when you got tons of, if you're part of the problem, but you're the only one that's apologizing, you're the only one that's taking responsibility, and everybody is waiting for the problem to always come and say they're sorry. For the problem because I was part of the problem. I did this, and I should have did this and should have did that. And when I removed myself, I understood things. That now everyone has to find their own solution. I'm no longer part of the problem. I won't make myself be a solution. So ask yourself, are you part of the problem? And if you are, what you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Are you part of the problem with your children, with your grandchildren, at your job? Are you the problem? Not part of the problem, the problem. Do you keep doing the same thing over and over again? And do you even know that you're the problem? Because you're busy trying to be the solution. But are you the problem? You could possibly be the problem, trying to be the solution. It is not going to work. You got to first admit, I'm part of the problem. Now, I don't take responsibility for what the people did to me. That was their own evils, okay? I don't. But I know that if you're saying that I am part of the problem, and I can go back and mirror some of that stuff, that I'm part of the problem, then I need to get the solution. The solution is sometimes you'll have to remove yourself. Some stay, some had to go. And that's the way it goes. Okay? Because if you want to get people the solution, sometimes you got to remove the problem. And if you're the problem, remove yourself. I'm not saying forever. I'm saying for a season. Get you some counseling and therapy. You guys know by now. Guys and girls know by now. I mentioned counseling and therapy, and people don't want it. People tell you in a minute, I got to deal with me. No. Sometimes God needs to set you up with a person that's deep into God, where they can give you a spiritual perspective and then give you a worldly perspective so you can heal. You're not going to heal and you think somebody else is part of the problem, and you're really part of the problem because you keep on going back trying to be the solution. And you're part of the problem. I was part of the problem with some decisions that my children made. And I had to remove myself so that they can find their own solutions instead of me being the solution. I was part of the problem with my grandson. Part of it. I don't take full responsibility for that, but I take full responsibility for putting it in his ear that he should just take the car. And then he spent his money. He was, sad about it. He was really sad. That car put a damper on him. And I said, okay, I don't ever want to be part of the problem. I was having a conversation with him, with my grandson the other day, and he said something about, he said, that makes me, when you say that, Miss Susie, about that certain thing, it just makes me feel some kind of way. And I said, we were talking about generational curses and all these kind of things, family patterns and all this. And then I said, I never knew that. And I said, well, to that, you don't have to worry about that with me again, because I don't want to be part of the problem. I want to be a healthy solution, and I want to be able to lead you and guide you. But I don't want to do it if it's making you feel some kind of way. He said, because you taught me that all my life. He said, you said it over and over again all my life. And I said, you are right. I just don't want you to be part of the curse. I want you to overcome the curse as I do in my life. I want the generational curses to be broken off of our family. I said, that's what I want. And we can't do that if we follow the pattern. And he said, how you told me that for the last 2 years, you've been talking about it. You even did that poster. Yeah, because I went and put a poster and drew pictures of all the men in the family and all these other kind of things, because I didn't want him to be part of the problem. I wanted my grandsons to be the solution and not part of the problems. And I'm asking you that. Are you part of the problem, but think you're the solution? And you're not the solution if you're the problem. You know, it took me a lot of counseling and therapy to understand responsibility and to look at my own life. So I know when things are mirroring me and saying, hey, you need to check this is going on inward. And I know when stuff is on the outside of me, and it's a life lesson. I've learned through many life lessons, grueling life lessons, how to handle myself. Me and God, we do a very good job of responsibility. And we can do a very good job of removing myself from things that no longer serve me, things that won't give me peace. And I don't want to be part of anybody's problem. I want to be the solution that God wants me to be in that situation. I want to be the solution. But if I'm busy just taking it all over and I want to do this and I want you to see this and stuff, yes, people are going to lie. We're women and men of God. People are going to lie on us and they're going to say that we're part of the problem, we're this and that. Oh, forget about them. Because they're not important when it comes to the decisions that we make according to God, because God holds us responsible. People have said that before about me. Who holds her responsible? I sit up under some beautiful people, older, in their 80s, that holds me responsible. God, number one, and them. And it's all about God with them. They're died to that owe them, doing all the craziness. They don't do that. But I can call them and tell them what I did, what I said. And they always say, let's say, go with the word. Say, what does the Bible say? You know that ain't right. Don't say that, or don't, But these people that say these things, they don't think they're part of the problem at all, because they worried about who keeps me responsible. But they have no one in their circle. They don't have no elders. They don't have anyone that can keep them responsible, that can say, you're part of the problem. How many people can tell you that you're part of the problem? How many can tell you that? You're not solving nothing. How many people can sit down with you candidly and tell you, you ain't solved nothing, you made a mess? You part of the problem, you part of the issue. And then you can say, okay, I didn't know that. So then I'm going to ask God, how did I solve that? So if God asks you to remove yourself from that situation for a season, from someone that you love dearly, could you do it? No, probably not, because you're part of the problem. People that want the solution, want a healthy solution, understand that it's for the best of everyone that I remove myself. I'm busy. I'm always trying to see, is this or is this that? Do I need to remove myself? Because I have no problem doing that. I don't have any issues removing myself, because I don't want to be part of the problem, because I have been part of the problem with some decisions that I made. And I'm just saying, according to my children. Now, these other people, no. They still part of their own problem, but they don't even see it. So that's not my problem. My problem is not to go back and reach and have the same generational pathology to go on with my grandchildren. So I'm always making different choices or saying different things. Let me show you an example. But when my grandson said that to me the other day, I said, oh, I don't want to be part of the problem. I want to be the solution. And the solution is for me to hear exactly what you're saying. You don't want me to be talking about this generational curses and pathology no more, because you get it. You get it. He said, I get it. I get what you're saying. And I said, carry on. I'm expecting great things from you. And that was that. See, I didn't make myself be part of the problem and get an attitude and tell them that what you're talking. I didn't do any of that. I said, okay, I get it. And we ceased it. We didn't talk about it anymore. He carried on, I carried on. We had a good conversation when we got into the house, and that was that. Because I've learned to be mature in the things of not being a problem, but being the solution. People that has a solution are positive. People that have the solution are godlike. People that have the solution are kind. They're sensitive to the Holy Spirit when it's saying back off, don't say anything else. I was known to tell my children, no, we're going to talk about this. And I would talk about it to them, but they would go right over their head because they wasn't ready to receive it. I was part of the problem. When a person is not ready to receive something, you become the problem. The solution says, okay, they're not mature to receive it. They're not going to take it. So what do I do with this? I just say, okay. And I stop being part of the problem and I'll be the solution. And sometimes the solution will hurt. Sometimes the solution will hurt. It ain't always peaches and cream when you give a solution. Some going to take it, some going to reject it. But at the end of the day, you don't want to be part of anyone's problem. You got your own problems. You got to work out your own life. Even the Bible tells you work out your own salvation with trembling and all this other good stuff. Work it out yourself. Work out what you got going on because you got inward work to do. You got outward work to do. You got to be a disciple in this world. You got to be a follower of Christ. There's things that needs to be done, and there's going to be plenty of offenses. Plenty of people, you're going to be offended by things, but you're going to quickly forgive because you don't want to be part of the problem. People that's part of the problem will not even apologize. They won't. They'll make up every excuse that they have. I don't know how the person gonna receive it. Oh, they probably ain't gonna receive it. They already done made up their mind why they shouldn't apologize, and then they take and put it on the other person that already has a solution to walk away. Think about that today. Think about where you are. Just meditate on it and ask your God or ask a counselor, a therapist, or an older person. Or it ain't always best to be asking your friends and your best friends, your family members, what you should do. Because they part of the problem too. You have to find someone to ask. I did this or I did that. What does that look like? Am I part of the problem? I was telling someone that not too long ago. I said, I ain't going to ever be a problem again. I'm all about the solution. This is what you're not going to do. And I said that to this person. I said, you're not going to do that. You're not going to blame. You're not going to, no, just because I don't say it to you about that person doesn't mean I don't have the conversation. But that's what you're not going to do. Being the solution and putting up the boundaries in the solution, but not being part of the problem. When someone say they don't want to talk about something, you need to say, okay, that's the solution. Because if they really want to talk to you, they're going to call you. Or they're going to come, waiting for you. They're waiting for you. Most people are waiting for you to apologize because they don't want to be part of the problem. And they are part of the problem. But they're so used to you apologizing, taking accountability for how they treat you and how they feel and all this. They don't even want to apologize. People that don't apologize are part of the problem. They can act like they're so nice and sweet and innocent all they want. I know several people that do. And they're part of the problem because they won't say I'm part of the problem. There's some things I shouldn't have did. I shouldn't have said. They won't even say that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was known to say I'm sorry because I never wanted to carry things. I would say I'm sorry to everybody. I remember one time I called someone and I said, if I ever hurt you, harmed you, I'm sorry. And they said, what you finna do? You finna die or something? And I said, are you serious? And I started laughing. I said, no, but I feel that maybe I did something to hurt you. Or maybe I said something. Oh yeah, you hurt me a lot. You used to say this and used to say that to me when we would get to having a debate or something like that. And I said, yeah. But they never said, hey, I'm sorry. Because I did some horrible things. Never did, but that was okay. Because that was my freedom. I don't need to be part of the problem. I need to be the solution at that point. And I was part of the solution. I walked away and never looked back, and it was okay. That was the solution. Because why would you want a problem around you? The only way you want the problem around you is the problem too. Two problems like coming up with some math solutions, and they don't have none. Two problems will get together and try to come up with a solution. They don't have any because they're part of the problem and they like where they are. So you ask yourself today, am I part of the problem? And if I am, what do I plan on doing about it? Because you are the problem. Okay? You, yourself, I are the problem. It's not the devil. It's not the siblings or the friends and stuff. You're the problem. Because you're constantly trying to have your own solution when maybe it's just being quiet, minding your own business, saving your space for those that God wants to put in it. I don't know what your life looks like for you, but this I do know, you're part of the problem. Okay? Think about that tonight. Think about it as your weekend comes tomorrow. And ask yourself, am I part of the problem? And then say to yourself, I am the problem and I need a God solution. Okay? Till the next time.